So welcome back to Tayshoe Park. We have a great ride for the kids. It's called Samsara roller coaster. Guess we better have something for the parents then. The adults, it's Nirvana. Nirvana for the adults. Nice spa centre maybe or something like that. When the kids are on the roller coaster, you can go off and have a massage in Nirvana. So, Tayshoe Park. Cheese and onion, salt and vinegar. What do you want today?
Ready salted.
What?
Ready salted.
Ready salted. You can't touch the smoky bacon though, not as a little Buddhist that.
It's not kosher.
It's not kosher, no. Smoky bacon, no. And Zen tends to be salt and vinegar a lot of the time. So, Bodhidharma. So, we started looking at Bodhidharma yesterday and we were looking at his bloodstream sermon. There's not, in this translation, there's not many teachings left over from Bodhidharma. Red Pine speculates that, in fact, the outline of practice, which is a very short teaching at the start, this is probably closer to the historical, if such a thing exists, the historical Bodhidharma as a person. The outline of practice is very short. Let's see. Many roads lead to the path, but basically there are only two: reason and practice. That's interesting. So, I think it's fair to say that ours is the practice of a school, you know. The Zen school is the practice school. And if you think of, now I'm not that familiar with Tibetan Buddhism, but I think the Gelugpa would be very much they have a strong debating and intellectual tradition, don't they? So there's a reason. So many roads lead to the path, but there are basically two: reason and practice. To enter by reason means to realize the essence through instruction and to believe that all living things share the same true nature, which isn't apparent because it's shrouded by sensation and delusion. Those who turn from delusion back to reality, who meditate on walls, the absence of self and other, the oneness of mortal and sage, and who remain unmoved even by scriptures, are in complete and unspoken agreement with reason. Without moving, without effort, they enter, we say, by reason. To enter by practice refers to 4 all-inclusive practices. And he goes on to talk about karma and rebirth and adapting to conditions with equanimity. He talks about seeking nothing because all phenomena are empty. To seek is to suffer. And fourthly, practicing the Dharma. The Dharma is the truth that all natures are pure. By this truth, all appearances are empty. Defilement and attachment, subject and object, don't exist. The sutras say the Dharma includes no being because it's free from the impurity of being. And the Dharma includes no self because it's free from the impurity of self. And since that which is real includes nothing worth begrudging, they give their body, life and property in charity without regret, without the vanity of giver, gift or recipient. Sound familiar? That last bit? That's directly from Morioki, isn't it, as well, you know? The emptiness of giver, receiver and gift, and without bias or attachment. So the outline of practice is very short, a couple of pages, but I think the bloodstream sermon is what I'm going to focus on because it expands on some of these themes a little deeper. So we saw that Bodhidharma is not really saying anything new, you know. Bodhidharma comes out of this Indian tradition of meditation and is heavily influenced by the Prajnaparamita teachings and the Yogacara teachings. Wisdom beyond wisdom and mind consciousness only teachings, as they've been called. And the way of practice is meditation. So he's a meditation monk, and he comes to China to teach this. And one of the most famous stories of Bodhidharma, of course, is the story with his encounter with Emperor Wu, emperor in China. And I was joking, myself and Hodor are going to meet the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister of Ireland, on Thursday to talk about religious inclusion. So what should we say to our own emperor here? And should we get some inspiration from Bodhidharma? Or will we feel the well-crafted shoe leather of Leo Varadkar's brogue on our behinds as we are kicked out of Dublin Castle if we approach him with Emperor Wu's attitude, with Bodhidharma's attitude? Well, what was his attitude? So Bodhidharma must have been a well-known Buddhist teacher already if he gets an audience with the emperor, you know. Imagine an audience with the Emperor of China. Imagine that. You know? Anything could happen. Could go badly wrong. Could go badly wrong. Off with his head. So Bodhidharma must have had some reputation, if this is not just an apocryphal story, you know. And to have been summoned by the emperor who had done so much for Buddhism in China, who had built many, many temples, who had supported Buddhism, who had put the resources of state behind Buddhism. And you know, China tends to be suspicious of foreign teachings and foreign teachers. So here's this foreigner, man from another land, summoned to the court. And Emperor Wu tells Bodhidharma, great teacher Bodhidharma, I've built, you know, many Buddhist temples. I've supported the Dharma. I've been really strong. And what merit has this got me? And famously, Bodhidharma says, no merit. Got no merit at all, nothing. And Emperor Wu is a bit shocked by this. You know, all the good deeds that he has done has not gained him any merit. So, I mean, we go around doing good deeds. Do they not count for anything? We go around, you know, performing acts of kindness, supporting good causes. Bodhidharma says this gets you nothing at all. So this is funny teaching, isn't it? So the emperor is a bit shocked and surprised by this, and he says, all this, and you say I get no merit at all for it. So what's the highest teaching you have to offer? What's the holiest teaching that you have to offer me today? And Bodhidharma says, no holiness. Nothing's holy. Nothing is holy at all. Just emptiness. It's just emptiness. No holiness. In the way that emptiness is sometimes an unfortunate translation that leads to misunderstandings. I mean, you see Taz Tanahashi and Thich Nhat Hanh sometimes as well talking about boundlessness. Isn't that the opposite of emptiness? Emptiness sounds like voidness, and boundlessness sounds like your cup is overflowing with plenty. So how could they translate it as the same? Jim, how could they translate it as the same?
Ta.
Ta.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Ta.
Ta. The two you know the dogs running around here?
Yeah.
We have a little young dog who has not learned the ways of the world yet, and he goes after you, you know. And you've got an older dog who's wise and worldly and leads kin in most days outside. So, you know the old koan, does a dog have Buddha nature? Well, I've got a new koan for you now, Jim. The two dogs have two Buddha natures.
Woof.
Hold up, two dogs. One Buddha nature, two Buddha natures, no Buddha natures.
All of them.
Magda.
All of them and mom.
Thanks for your answers. Boundlessness. Emptiness. Nothing holy. It's the same as saying everything is holy. Everything is sacred. So, what medicine is required at the time is the question. What medicine is required? Obviously, Bodhidharma arrives in China, where Buddhism is highly ceremonial, tied to the court, supported by the state, is institutional religion, and is also mixed up with magical practices. So, sounds a bit like the church before the Reformation, a little bit, you know. So along comes Martin Luther, nails this thing to the door. This big gesture. So along comes Bodhidharma, and he says nothing is holy. Nothing is holy. So Emperor was totally shocked with this, and he's going, is this guy the real Bodhidharma? What's the deal here? Like, he's not on message at all, you know, he's just not on message here. So he's not telling me what I expect, what I want to hear. And he says, who are you? And Bodhidharma says, I don't know. He says, I don't know. At that stage, one could imagine Bodhidharma being taken out and being tortured in some very imaginative way that Emperor Wu had at his disposal. That didn't happen. Probably the story didn't happen. Who knows? It's not in. It emerges later on in the history of the teachings. So it's a nice invention, nice story. But we see three solid teachings there. You know, something about merit, something about everything is sacred or nothing is sacred or whatever. It's beyond profane and holy. Beyond those distinctions of profane and holy. And thirdly is the whole thing of self. You know, that there is no self. So maybe this, you know, the way teachings often are made into these little stories they're almost like condensed little vitamin pills that travel through time to carry essential truths. You know, if you think of the Christian Church in Ireland and you think of St. Patrick's three, you know, his shamrock is the Trinity, you know, and they're all three leaves on one stem, and so maybe there's a little story made to transpose over time and space these teachings of Bodhidharma. So, no holiness. Nothing is holy. This is beyond the distinctions of discrimination. This is beyond the dualities that we constantly polarize our imaginations around. For and against things. The no merit. What's this about? I mean, we're not getting merit for doing good actions. Those of you like Eduardo who are taking Jukai have and will do look at the precepts, study the precepts and sit with the precepts and digest them and let the ethical precepts of Buddhism enter their bones. And the precepts, you don't kill, don't steal, don't, abuse intoxicants, don't indulge in sexual misconduct, etc., etc., etc. They can be understood in a couple of ways. They can be understood in the relative way of this relative dimension of existence, where they are enacting and realizing the truth of no self, because they are informed by wisdom. They grow out of wisdom like a lotus. So, if other is self and self is other, if even the natural world is self and other at the same time, then in a very practical way, they are realizing the teachings by caring for other as self and self as other. But on a deeper level, this is all empty anyway. So at the ultimate level of truth, there is this boundlessness or emptiness. And here it's beyond a question of merit. So we hold these truths simultaneously as true, So no merit, beyond holiness, and who are you? I don't know who I am. In the Korean tradition and in some other East Asian traditions of Buddhism, the practice isn't quite shikantaza often, the way we sit, just sitting. My Dharma brother in Paris, Dinan, often has this practice, because he started in a Korean tradition he often asks in the Zendo during Zazen, "Qui êtes-vous?" Who are you? Who are you? Qui êtes-vous? Who am I? Who am I? Try, search. Where will you find that self? Where would you find that self? Go have an X-ray in the doctors. See if you're in there. So there's something going on here at the deep, deep, deep level of Buddha nature, of consciousness. And it is unnameable, really. We call it things. We call it Tagada, we call it Buddha nature, we call it emptiness, we call it our true self. But it's a reality that we have to encounter. And the only way to do it is just sit down. And as Brad Warner says, shut up. Sit down and shut up. And that's hard to do in normal life. And that's why we create the conditions in sesshin to sit down and shut up. To sit down and go there. Kievu. Who are you? Who am I? I liked to upset Diamond sometimes because I'd butt in during Zazen and I'd say, who are you not? Who are you not? Is the opposite of who are you? Is it? Is it boundlessness? Is it boundlessness and emptiness? So in Zen, even if it doesn't fit that well, we often see the two perspectives. This is why Zen is sometimes perplexing. Sometimes this dance can be perplexing because it's a dance of contradiction. And this dance of contradiction is pointing at the truth. It's pointing at the way things really are. So that's why the koan tradition often has these stories which can be quite difficult, because they're there to bring out something that is beyond rational thought. We see this in the start of the Bloodstream Sutra. Everything that appears in the three realms comes from the mind, hence Buddhas of the past, future and future teach mind to mind without bothering about definitions. But if they don't define it, what do they mean by mind? You ask, that's your mind, I answer. That's my mind. If I had no mind, how could I answer? If you had no mind, how could you ask? That which asks is your mind, through endless kalpas, without beginning. Whatever you do, wherever you are, that's your real mind. That's your real Buddha. Whatever you do, wherever you are, that's your real Buddha. Job done. Huh? Don't have to go looking for anything. Because wherever you are, whatever you do, that's your real Buddha. So you wasted your damn time coming here on sesshin. And your money. You wasted your time and your money coming here on sesshin. Total waste. Fools. Ooh, you fools. No. How did Dogen address this question?
What was the fan?
Yeah, end of the Genjo Koan. He liked that image of the fan. That's why Bin said. So, without practicing it, it is not realized. It is not realized. So, could you pass me the voucher there, please? And yeah, thanks, Michael. Thank you very much. Okay. So, on this side, you've got a sentient being, and on this side, you've got a Buddha. This is the Buddha side, over this side. Magd is the Buddha side, okay? And Jim over there is the sentient being side, okay? So, I'm going to put up my sleeve, I'm going to turn it. Okay, which one's the Buddha side? Which one's the sentient being side? Maybe? without practice, it's not realized. So, what's the difference between sentient beings and Buddhas? Yeah, practice. Yeah. Practice realization, as Dogen would say. Thanks, Jean. Practice, yeah. Dogen didn't see a difference between practice and realization. He saw them as both the same. Because if you have it already, then how is this? There's a long path getting there. You know, if you've got it already, how is there a graduated path getting there? So Dogen constantly said, you've already got it. You just keep practicing. That is the realization itself. Whatever you do, wherever you go, wherever you are, that's your real mind. That's your real Buddha. This mind is Buddha. Beyond this mind, you'll never find another Buddha. Beyond this mind, you'll never find another Buddha. So you won't find a Buddha on the altar. You won't find a Buddha in a Heiji, the head temple of the Soto sect, or Sojiji, the other head temple. 2 heads, what a beast. You won't find Buddha in the Himalayas. You won't find Buddha in the sutras. You won't find it in Bodhidharma. You won't find it in any of the sutras. You'll find Buddha in the mind. Pretty radical, huh? Pretty radical teaching. This mind is the Buddha. Beyond this mind, you'll never find the Buddha. To search for enlightenment or nirvana beyond this mind is impossible. The reality of your own self-nature, the absence of cause and effect, is what's meant by mind. Your mind is nirvana. You might think you can find a Buddha or enlightenment somewhere beyond the mind, but such a place doesn't exist. Trying to find a Buddha or enlightenment is like trying to grasp space. Space has a name but no form. It's not something you can pick up or put down. And you certainly can't grab it. That's really good. That's really good. You can't grab it. Oh, I love that. Great teaching there. Brilliant teaching. This Buddha nature, you can't get hold of it. Well, you can't grab it. So, if in your practice life you're trying to get Buddha nature, you are F-U-C-K-E-D. Okay, you're not gonna do it, right? You're not going to get that Buddha nature. Look, you might have come to Taysho Park thinking there was a prize for everybody, right? But there is no prize.
You get a package of crisps.
You get a package of crisps at the end, yeah. So, so I think often in our practice we say, well, I need to read the Avatamsaka Sutra. I need to. Maybe I should go on pilgrimage, or I should do this, or I need to do a lot more zazen. I need to do a lot more zazen. Now, maybe all these things will actually help, right? But they're kind of not the essential point. The essential point is right now. Right now. This is it. This is reality. And it can't be grasped. finding that it can't be grasped is a realization in itself. Look at your own lives. Look at my life, God. Look at my bloody life. You know? I mean, just take a minute now to think, right, like all the stuff you were doing before you came here on retreat, on session, right? To do with work, family, responsibilities, planning, summer holidays, financial issues, hobbies, friendships, everything. All the kind of involvement of your life, all the plans, all the daydreams, all of it. If I move to the south of France, maybe I should move to the countryside, get out of Dublin. You know? All the things going on. So we're constantly trying to grasp it. We're trying to grasp it constantly. And we can't grasp it. We never get hold of it. We can never get hold of it. That's fine. It cannot be grasped. You know, there's broadly two approaches you can take. You can say, well, then I will grasp nothing. I will grasp nothing. I will cut it out by the root. All desire shall be banished. All want and desire shall be banished from the way. This is the original Buddhist way. And there's some of that still in our practice, of course there is. But we don't banish desire. What we do is we banish unnecessary desire, maybe. And we hold desire without attachment. There's a difference. You know? In this Mahayana way, we recognize that we are living right here and right now. And this is the Zen way. Buddhas of the past and future only talk about this mind. The mind is the Buddha and the Buddha is the mind. Beyond the mind, there's no Buddha. There's no Buddha beyond the mind, so why envision one? You can't know your real mind as long as you deceive yourself. People, though, are deluded. They're unaware that their own mind is the Buddha. Otherwise, they wouldn't look for a Buddha outside the mind. Buddhas don't save Buddhas. If you use your mind to look for a Buddha, you won't see the Buddha. As long as you look for a Buddha somewhere else, you'll never see that your own mind is the Buddha. Don't use a Buddha to worship a Buddha. And don't use the mind to invoke a Buddha. Buddhas don't recite sutras, Buddhas don't keep precepts, and Buddhas don't break precepts. Buddhas don't keep precepts. Buddhas don't break precepts. Buddhas don't keep or break anything. Buddhas don't do good or evil. If you don't see your nature, invoking Buddhas, reciting sutras, making offerings, and keeping precepts are all useless. They're a waste of time. This is such a radical teaching, really. He says you get blessings for all these things, but you don't get Buddha. No Buddha. You don't get Buddha. This is what he said to Emperor Wu, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
No merit.
But is he saying that Buddha is gettable?
Hmm?
Is he saying that Buddha is gettable?
Well, he said earlier that it's not gettable because you already have that Buddha. But could be a translation issue there, maybe, I don't know. But I don't think he's suggesting that Buddha is gettable. He's suggesting that you already are Buddha, but you don't know it. That sentient beings and Buddhas are the same thing. It's just one is realized and the other isn't. So nirvana and samsara are the same thing.
But don't they also say if you want to be Buddha, act like Buddha, practice enlightenment, even if you haven't found that yet? Yeah, how do you reconcile that?
You just give me something that I didn't give myself. I don't have to reconcile it.
Yeah.
You see, I think the point earlier about what medicine is required, I think, is an important point. Because the point of the teachings is that there are things that are not reconcilable. So to look for the accounts to be balanced or the equation to come out at the end, that isn't how it's working. It's the stream of its continual emptiness and changing that is what the vital point is, I think. So I think the way Dogen would express it is the Genjo Koan, the koan of this present moment, the koan of this instant.
But we have to practice deliberately.
Yeah.
So the challenge, I mean, in each moment,
Mm-hmm.
unless you develop complete spontaneity, how do you practice deliberately? How do you know what right practice is?
Yeah. By practicing with a teacher would be the point he makes later on in the Bloodstream Sutra. He says that 1 in a million people don't need a teacher. Okay? Buddha, I mean, sat under the Bodhi tree. So some people don't need a teacher. If you can see your own nature on your own, go do it. You don't need a teacher. Okay? But mostly a teacher is useful and helpful to see your own nature. And working in that context, you are practicing correctly. So there are the self-realized. There are those that don't need a teacher as well. That's acknowledged by Bodhidharma. Don't listen to me. Go off and do your thing. Please, more. There's something residual there.
Don't know.
I don't know is a good place to start. It's where Buddha started. It's where Socrates started.
Is practice the cultivation of an attitude almost? A deliberate attitude?
No, practice is seeing your own nature. An attitude is a cultivated disposition. Someone is doing a service, right? A morning service in the Zendo, and they're very graceful, moving around. They have a certain deportment, a certain attitude. And another monk comes in, and they walk like a country farmer through the Zendo. Boom, boom, boom. They have no grace, they have no deportment, they have no class, you know. Which of them is manifesting their Buddha nature?
Well, both of them could be. Of course.
Which has the correct attitude?
If the clumsy man is clumsy in accordance with his true nature, his Buddha nature, it's correct. But not if the clumsy man is graceful and vice versa. if they're cultivating an attitude, I think you're saying that is contrary to their Buddha nature. That's an affectation.
Yeah, so what this is, again, is just an analogy. It's not the real dragon or the real moose, as we found out yesterday. So this story of deportment in the Zendo is only again pointing to something. Thoroughly investigate what that is pointing to. Anyone else? Hold on. Yeah.
Was I right in picking up one of the lines there that it said Buddha nature is beyond cause and effect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
yeah.
puzzling me.
Yeah. Go on, tell me more.
We think of something we do as having an effect or cultivating something and so on. So I'm just intrigued as to how that kind of, we're encouraged to look at conditions in Buddhism, to see the right conditions and the way, the right setting for things. How does the most important thing, which in a way is Buddha nature, not have that? And in what way is Bodhidharma kind of pointing that out? I just feel a bit perplexed by that.
Sure, yeah, I understand, yeah. I think you're right to be perplexed, because I think the desire is to make you perplexed in this teaching. So we have, of course we have the conditional, things which are conditioned upon causes and effects, on causes and conditions, and we have the unconditioned. So the unconditioned is, in the traditional understanding, is nirvana, is Buddha nature. And so what Bodhidharma is emphasizing is that beyond the relative conditional world, there is your true nature, which is beyond condition. So he's really emphasizing in his teachings, here at least, that this is the nature of your Buddha nature. It is like space. Space is not conditional. It is not conditioned. So can you have more space or less space? No, you can just have space. Or can you have a certain quality of space? This is better space than this space. Is the space over there better than the space over there? Is there more space there than here? So just the space itself, and he uses this analogy again, is unconditional. It's not conditioned. So he's emphasizing that your Buddha nature, that this Buddha nature that you have in you, that is your true self, is beyond the conditional. Yeah.
So there's nothing we can do to gain it or lose it?
No, that's his point. Even if you go killing people, even if you go around slaughtering people with a samurai sword, you still have Buddha nature. We some of us grew up in a Christian context, probably most of us. You could look at the idea, Hitler's often the example, Hitler. Should you kill Hitler or not? Is Hitler a human being? Does he have the potential for kindness and love? Or is he just all bad? Or let's take another example. Take something that's held up in a positive light, like unconditional love. Unconditional love. Okay? So unconditional love is love despite any conditions. So if you're a mother or a father, you will love your child no matter what. There's an example of parental mind, as Dogen calls it, right? Or he likes to call it sometimes grandmotherly mind. Grandmotherly mind. You know, that kind, beautiful, kind mind. Unless your grandmother was an old bitch, and that's another issue. But anyway, I don't know. But mine wasn't. Both of them were sweethearts. Both gone from this visible world. So unconditional love is love without conditions. But sorry, no, it's a contradiction. It's still.
There's a condition.
It's still the condition is love.
And the condition is your grandmother.
Yeah.
Motherly love, you know, is described as being unconditional. But there's a huge condition there. The mother.
Yeah.
Because is she as loving towards a stranger in the street as her child?
That's it. Yeah.
There is a massive condition there.
Yeah.
Then the argument could be, is a foster child or an adopted child loved as much? Is unconditional love transferable?
And also, some mothers don't love their children.
Of course, yeah. So I'm so glad that you're doing my Tay show for me, because this is great. That you've come up with loads of reasons why it's conditional. So Bodhidharma is taking that and going deeper and saying, I'm talking about what's really unconditioned. You see, we want it all to tie up nicely. We want our universe, we take the parts of the universe, we'll put it together, we'll put a bow around it, and we'll tie the bow. Okay? This bit fits this bit. Now in the Sandokai, the box and lid fit perfectly. Where two arrows meet in space is another image they use. Two arrows shot by archers meeting point to point. The absolute and the relative. Right? We say, hold on, there's a contradiction between this side and this side, between my Vajra turning. We're saying it doesn't tie up, Hodo, it doesn't tie up. Okay? But actually it fits perfectly. So, even in the world of physics, you know, they're looking for this unified theory, aren't they, of everything. And it keeps eluding them, this unified theory of everything. Because the rules for the very large and the rules for the very small seem to be in contradiction. That the way planets rotate and the laws of physics at that level, and then when you go to elementary particles, these laws are contradicted. So there in modern physics you have the two arrows. They're not giving us what our mind is craving, this unified theory that we can put the bow around and tie it. So, but this is reality. This is the way things really are. Not the way we want them to be up here, but the way they really are. And this reality is what Bodhidharma is pointing to. And he's only pointing. That's all he's doing. And again, just to flip it over, okay? So, you know the image of pointing at the moon? The Zen teachings are just a finger pointing at the moon. That's all they are. Forget the finger, it's just no. That's true on one level. On another level, the finger is the moon is the finger. Come into me on Monday, I'll say, the Zen teachings are only a finger pointing at the moon. Come into me on Tuesday, I'll say, no, the finger pointing at the moon is the Zen teachings. I'll say one thing on Monday, I'll say one thing on Tuesday. We'll have salt and vinegar, and then we'll have cheese and onion.